marking. Today is October 24th, 2001. We're at the Saratoga, New York Armory. We're interviewing Colonel W.G. Coloney. Colonel, where were you born?
I was born the 1st of May in 1923
Okay, whereabouts?
in Broadalbin, New York.
Oh, so you're a native.
I'm just a country boy.
Just a country boy. Okay, you grew up in Broadalbin?
Yes, sir.
Went to school there?
Yes, sir.
All the way through high school in Broadalbin?
Yeah, went through high school.
When did you graduate in high school?
Well, I graduated in 1940.
1940.
Yep.
Okay. Do you remember where you were when Pearl Harbor?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was just a country boy, and I used to weed gardens and empty ashes and mow lawns and things, and I saved my money. And when I graduated from high school, I decided that I would learn to fly, and I told my missus, my mother, I'd taken money out of the bank to learn to fly, and by golly, I did.
Oh, where did you take flying lessons?
Oh, I took flying lessons near Amsterdam, New York, in a Piper Cub.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then.
So you were about 18 years old when you...
Well, you know, I was about 16 then.
Oh.
17. I just turned 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was learning how to fly like at that time?
Well, it was a lot of fun, but it was expensive. And then it came along and I had an opportunity to go to the Civilian Military Training Corps.
Oh, really?
To a camp. That was a 30-day thing, I think, during the summer vacation.
Okay. What was that like?
Oh, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the military, and I thought maybe I could become a fighter pilot because England was at war and what have you. And so I couldn't get in the American Air Force because you had to have 2 years of college.
Okay.
But I could join the RAF. So I got all the paperwork together to join the Royal Air Force. And I took a physical and what have you. And then I got an appointment in Montreal, Canada.
Okay.
So, well, in the meantime, along came Pearl Harbor. But I kept the appointment in Montreal, and I'd had a physical in the States, but when I got up there, after driving through a snowstorm, my eyes were bad and I couldn't pass the physical. Oh, I said, now come on, my eyes are fine, and I passed it in the States. Yeah, but now your country's at war, and we're not too eager to have you. Well, it was Christmas time, and they were playing White Christmas. I was up there with a cousin from Bermuda who had to go out of the States and come back. And they said, well, we'll take you as a navigator, but not as a pilot. Oh, I'm not a navigator, I'm a pilot. So I thought. So he says to me, well, come on, what are you going to do? I'm going home. Because he only had to go out and come back, go through they were playing White Christmas and what have you. I didn't have a car, and I thought, boy, if he goes, what do I do? So I said, okay, I'm going with you. So I came back, and I picked up the paper, and here's another ad for pilots. You got to have 2 years of college or pass a written exam. I can't pass that written exam without college, but I took the exam along with 55 other chaps. And when we finished, they called out 13 names, and I was one of them. I thought, oh, dear. And they said, you folks go for physical, the rest of you can go home.
So you passed the written exam?
So I passed the written exam.
Where was that, where did you take the exam, do you remember?
That was in Albany, New York.
Okay.
I think that was, would that have been in the Armory at Albany?
It may well have been Washington Avenue Armory?
Either there or the old post office.
Okay. So now that you've passed the written exam, what are you going to do?
Well, I passed the physical. I didn't really pass, but there was an old doctor, and he said, well, you come back in 2 weeks. You know, they always wanted to get rid of people. I don't know why. They always had a thing that was very competitive. But he patted me on the back, and he said, you come back in 2 weeks. Well, I went back, and he took my blood pressure again. I don't remember him taking it the first time. Oh, he says, you'll be all right, son. He pats me on the back and signs me up, and off I go. So then they swear us, call us back. They call us back after 2 weeks, and I thought we were going off to war, but oh no, they swear us in and give us a card and said, you go home and we'll call you when we want you.
What did your parents think of all this?
Excuse me?
What did your parents think of all? You're kind of young.
Well, yeah, you know, they were a little bit leery, but they were generous.
Mm-hmm.
And any case, I went home, I think that was in October,
Mm-hmm.
the 12th of October in '42. Now, I thought I was going to go off in the service. Not until January '43 did they call us to go off in the service.
Really?
And I went off with a bunch of people from Albany and Troy and
Mhm.
Cohoes and Schenectady and a lot of Fulton County people.
Mm-hmm.
And we all went off in the service.
Now, where'd you go?
Went to Atlantic City.
What'd you do in Atlantic City?
We marched up and down the boardwalk.
Okay.
Learned close order drill. We got uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
And we got physicals. And I had some blood pressure problems. But I found a chap that was kind of interested, and he kept holding me up. He took my blood pressure and made me wait. And I said, it was early in the morning, and everybody's standing outside the door. We're in a hotel. And I said, Sarge, what's the matter? He said, your blood pressure's so high, we've called a doctor. I said, Sarge, those are all my buddies out there, and we haven't had breakfast. I said, if I hold up this line, I won't dare go out there. I said, sign that thing and let me out. And he did.
Really?
So I went off. Then I thought we were going off to flying school. Oh, no. We're going to go off to, after about 3 weeks in Atlantic City, we go to Seymour Johnson, North Carolina. Well, boy, I think, well, we're going into flight training. No, after 5 days, they load us in a train again, never tell you where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And we tour around. We end up in the University of Buffalo. We got to get 2 years of college in 10 weeks,
Goodness.
only in the military.
Now, was this your first time away from home?
Well, yeah, really, for any length of time. I'd been off to that 30-day camp
Right.
and what have you.
Right. You're
That
kind of young, so what was this? How'd you feel about this whole experience?
Well, everybody was in the same boat, weren't they?
Yeah. So you're off to Buffalo.
Yeah, and after 10 weeks, out of there into classification in Nashville, Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
where you meet a doctor, psychiatrist, really, a shrink, right?
Mm-hmm.
He picks your brain and finds out whether or not you're going to be qualified to be I guess, airborne. I don't know whether you're pilots or not.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, okay, so you got me. I want to be a single-engine fighter pilot. That's what I want to be. So we go off to flight training. We go off to 2 months in Maxwell Air Force Base for pre-flight.
What was that like?
Well, that was a lot of fun. And of course, everything's a new experience.
Mm-hmm.
Then we go off for 2 months in Clarksdale, Mississippi for primary, flying the biplanes,
Mhm.
Stearmans. But I didn't, oh, how I wanted to fly that biplane. But no, we got the new Fairchild PT-23s, a low-wing radial engines plane.
Mhm.
Oh, they were great.
What were your instructors like?
Oh, they were fine. Yeah, I had a nice instructor.
Mm-hmm.
He found out I could fly. And they had an island out there in the Mississippi, I remember, and he said, well, take me over here. He showed me where to go, and I said, we're going to land here. And there was a couple of other people there with airplanes. So we landed. Now he says, you go ahead and fly for an hour and come back and pick me up.
Were you supposed to be soloing at this point?
Well, yeah, I think he checked me out for solo.
Okay.
But come to find out, they're all having coffee and biscuits and shooting crap. But that's how I learned to fly. I'd always take him over there, let him out with 2 or 3 other instructors, and I'd go off and fly the airplane.
You're having fun and they're having fun.
Well, yeah. I used to see those big vultures, and I thought, boy, I'm going to see if I can get me a vulture. Well, those sneaks, you know, you get up behind them, and they could turn just like faster than an airplane could turn.
Sure.
Well, I finally sneaked up on one, and I thought, you sucker, you're going to turn right. So when I got up there, he turned right, and I clipped him. Ooh, boy, it shuddered that airplane with that wooden prop, and I thought, oh, I wish I'd never done that. So I went back to the home base and landed. I don't know how he got back, but I didn't say anything. But the wooden prop was all right. There was a little bit of streaks on it, but everything was all right. I guess it was all right. Somebody else flew it and it seemed to be all right. But I never again did I do that.
What was it like in the South? A little different than Broadalbin?
Well, yeah. Yeah, but again, you're with a lot of other
Mm-hmm.
folks and you just kind of fit in.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You just kind of fit in. I had a problem in that I didn't smoke or drink.
That was a problem?
Well, yeah, because all the rest of them smoke and go off drinking somewhere, and what do I do?
Well, what did you do?
Oh, I don't know. I just kind of whiled away the time.
Mm-hmm.
That was always a problem for me.
Interesting.
Well, I wasn't against drinking or smoking. I just,
Didn't do it?
yeah. But I mean, it was hard not to socialize with those guys.
Okay. Okay. Did you make any good friends there?
Oh, I made a lot of good friends. People you'll never forget.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure everyone found it that way. Every once in a while you come up against another old friend somewhere, and
Mm-hmm.
always pleased to meet him.
So you decided after your never to buzz a vulture again.
No, that's bad business.
That could have been a disaster.
Yeah, yeah, I was fortunate.
Well, you're young.
I was lucky. I always told my missus how lucky I was.
Mm-hmm. Now, after your time there, you learned to, you soloed, what next?
Well, then you go off to basic.
Okay.
Go off to basic for 2 months, and I went to Greenville, Mississippi. I was seen a lot of Mississippi. Then after 2 months of that, you go off, you're going to be a fighter pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, come to find out only a third of you are going to be fighter pilots. The other 2/3 are going off to what they call twin engine advanced. Well, fortunately, I made the cut again, and I went to single engine advanced. So now I'm going to be a fighter pilot.
What was that school like?
Well, that was good. And on my last flight, before I finished, I asked the instructor to go with me because I didn't want to goof up. You know, this little thing, and they say, "Oh, we don't need you. We'll wash you out."
Mm-hmm.
So I was always nervous.
What were you training on?
We were flying AT-6s then.
Okay.
I think that was the Texan, I think.
Okay. How was that fly?
Oh, that was great. That had the radial engine with a controllable pitch prop and a retractable gear, and well, that was great.
You had fun with that?
Yeah, that was, now we're getting up there.
Okay.
So then we graduate, and we got a 30-day leave.
Oh.
No.
No, we didn't
Oh,
get.
yeah.
That's getting way back there. You know, that was 1944. That was
Yeah.
8th of October, 8th of February in 1944 that we graduated. We get commissioned as second lieutenants, and we get rated as a pilot.
So now you're an officer and a gentleman.
Oh yeah, that's what Congress said. I remember when we went up, there was a big barrel there, and I think it was either a first or a captain. He says, "Well, help yourself to your wings," and you reached in and grabbed a pair of wings.
A real formal ceremony.
So then, now we're pilots, and we went off on leave.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't flown any fighters yet, but we think we're going to be fighter pilots. Well, we come back after
10 days.
after our leave. We're going to be fighter pilots. Oh no, you're hurrying it too much. Only a third will be fighter pilots. The other two have got to go off to either bomber or transport training. And I think there was 10 or 12 of us got to fly the P-40s.
Oh, what was that like?
Oh, that was a lot of fun.
What'd you like about the P-40?
I guess because it was a P-40. That had an inline liquid-cooled engine.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first time I had any experience with those, and I wasn't too keen on that thing. I guess they were old or something I didn't understand about them.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, if I had my choice, I wouldn't fly liquid-cooled inline engines again.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get sent up to Richmond, Virginia. But we didn't fly at Richmond, Virginia. They scattered us all over the country. I went to Dover, Delaware. Let's see, I went to Blackstone, Virginia first to fly the P-47, learn how to fly that. That worked out all right.
What did you like the P-47?
Oh, that was a beautiful airplane.
What did you like about it?
Well, it's just big old trustworthy thing. It had a big cockpit. It felt like a Greyhound bus. And I thought, oh, we're flying fighters, you know. We're going to be flying fighters. I took off one day, and I felt that thing shudder, but we're always going off in formation, flying in formation. When we came back to land, the leader had to go around. He lands on one side of the runway, and he lands on the left, and I land on the right, and the other two are behind us. Well, he had to go around for some reason and didn't land it, and I thought, I'll step over and take his place. Well, it was a good thing I did, because when I landed, I had the right tire flat, and that was the shudder from takeoff, but I'd never experienced it. It was only a moment before the gear came up and running. Well, it pulled me off over to the right, and I got stopped on the runway, which was fine. And, of course, the fire trucks were coming, the ambulances coming, and the staff cars. You know who's in the staff cars. Well, now I'm hearing the tower shout, "Number 4, go around. Number 4, go around." And I looked out, and here he comes. He's just picking up his tail, and he's coming right into me. And I dropped down as low as I could, and he hit me and tore me all up. But he didn't touch me. Just tore up the airplane. Scattered all down the runway, the back end. The engine was all right, but I'm sitting there with nothing. Even the aerial was gone. Well, they had him land on another runway because they felt like he had so much stuff of my airplane in his landing gear. And he landed wheels up. He had less damage than what I had.
So he hit you with the wheels?
Well, he hit me with everything. The prop, the landing gear hit my tail, the prop and the wing hit my canopy and what have you. But I was lucky.
So the P-47 could take some damage.
Oh, yeah. See, the nice thing about that airplane was you could shoot it up all over. Even shoot the engine and the thing would keep grinding. I was quite pleased with the P-47.
So now you finally hit ground there, and you had a welcoming party.
Oh, yeah, but before, oh, sure, they got to have a board and have an accident board, but before they could really convene the board, they had another accident and they forgot about me. It wasn't my fault.
Right.
I was fortunate, really. I couldn't get off the runway. I suppose I probably could have, but I just wanted to get that thing shut down and get out of it.
Sure. So how long did your P-47 training go?
Well, then we went off to gunnery. This was just learning to fly the airplane.
Okay.
Then we'd come back and we'd go off to gunnery in Dover, Delaware. And I was keeping in touch with her. She was going off to Potsdam State Teachers College.
Oh.
But I'd keep in touch. But every once in a while she'd find somebody, I think, younger and better looking.
Hard to believe.
And then every once in a while I'd get another letter. Maybe he wasn't quite so good what she thought. She wanted to know what I was doing. You know? But after about 3 or 4 times, I said, no more am I going to open any more of those letters. But I opened one more. And in Dover, Delaware, she came to visit, I think, overnight or 2 nights.
Yeah.
I can't recall. She had some time off from school. But in any case, we get through Dover, Delaware, and then we get orders to go overseas.
Now, were you with a unit at this point?
No, we're still all split up people. People come from all different organizations, and we keep losing people, you know. I ended up, see, I know all the C people, right? Alphabetical people.
Okay.
But then they kept thinning out, and you keep getting new people. So you keep making new friends and losing old ones. But in any case, we get orders to go overseas from Dover, Delaware, let's see, back to, I think we were going through Richmond and then into, it was somewhere near Norfolk, Camp Patrick Henry. Boy, how can I bring that up? So I thought, oh, I got it pretty near 24 hours to get to Richmond. I think I can get home. So I did. I got home, and she was home from school. I don't like to tell the story. But I got a ride up from the Albany station, train station, into Amsterdam. My folks picked me up. I said, I think Carol's home. I'd take the car and go up and see her. And I did, and there was a wedding cake there. Her mom, they knew I liked the cake. I said, what's the wedding cake for? Everything is all quiet. I guess we talked about getting married and I'd forgotten. So we did, we got married the next day.
In that 24 hours.
Yeah, 24 hours. Oh, the local clerk said, I can't give you a license, you don't have a blood test and what have you. But he said, here's the slip, go over, he called the county judge, go over there and see the judge. Oh, the judge, I'm a second lieutenant, oh boy, oh yes sir, no problem, no problem. He tells the clerk something and she writes it down and he says, there you are, go and get married.
That was an eventful trip home.
It sure was.
Yeah. We got married and got on the train and headed back to the port. We had just a week. Well, I think she went home, we got to the port.
Well, we had a few days there.
Yeah. So I didn't know that. I called her up one day at the hotel. No, she's not there. I said, oh, we stayed at 2 hotels. I'll call the other one. She's not there. She thought I was already gone. I called my folks, they hadn't seen her. I called her folks, they hadn't seen her. And I thought, oh my God, she's gone back with one of those other guys already. Come to find out, she'd stopped to see a brother on the way home. So, but that was all right. She went back to school, and I went to Italy. 30 days on a boat.
What was that like?
30 days on the ship, 42 fighter pilots and 8 military police officers. Only 50 of us on this ship.
How big a ship was it?
Well, it was a freighter,
Okay.
but we had it really first class, because only the crew to wait on us. But there was 136 ships. That's a lot of ships. No matter where you looked, you saw ships. And they had destroyer escorts. They'd whip around and drop some depth charges, chase submarines, I guess. We never really knew. But for 42 days, in July, we sat on the deck and played V-Disc, right? Had the music, had good food, got into, again, don't know where you're going. Nobody will tell you, but you know you're going east. We ended up in Mediterranean, going to Italy. That's where we got off. I don't know where the 8 military police went, but 42 of us went into Italy. And we went to various fighter groups. I remember 22 of us out of the 42 went to the fighter group that I was in, or we all went to that. 3 squadrons and 8 each went to the 3 squadrons, and I think 6 went to the 3rd. 22 of us went to that squadron.
What fighter group was it?
That was the 52nd Fighter Group.
Okay.
Yep, there were 325th Fighter Group, the 31st Fighter Group, and I think the 99th Fighter Group. That was the black people. They were very good. They were just over the hill from us. Everybody was just kind of, in fields and what have you. They weren't airports. We were just flying out of an old farmer's field with pierced steel planking, right on the coast of the Adriatic, which was nice.
What kind of accommodations?
Well, we had an old farmhouse with an old stone barn, but they had some tents out there. When I got to the outfit, they were sort of short of pilots. They'd lost a few here and there, and they were glad to see us. But of course, there were some old heads there, with a lot of experience, and we were all kind of new and green, right? And of course, they were all smoking and drinking, and where do I fit in? In any case, we finally built some wooden shacks out of our drop tank cases. We had always flew with drop tanks.
Right.
But here I'm surprised. We're not flying P-47s, we're flying P-51s. Oh, now I'm back to that inline engine, liquid-cooled inline engine. I'm not too hot on that, but of course the P-51 Mustang is very famous. And I gotta like this airplane. Well, now we're not going to be supporting the Army in close shoot-em-ups. We're going to be escorting bombers, high-altitude bombers, the B-17s and the B-24s, into occupied Europe that are stationed in Italy. Well, that was all right. That was different. Actually, I was lucky again, in my mind. That was kind of nice, clean work. But they're 5- and 6-hour flights in that P-51.
Well, now, how did that fly for you?
That flew fine, but the seat was half the size of this chair.
Really?
And of course, you sat with the nose up, the big long nose sticking out there. You couldn't taxi and see anything. You had to keep turning to see around. And the same way with taking off. So it was a lovely airplane. I was very lucky to be in that outfit. I thought I was.
How many missions?
I flew the 50 missions.
Okay.
I flew 49 missions in the P-51, and I flew one mission in the B-17. We, of course, we were always escorting the bombers, but occasionally we'd have a call. We'd only be escorting 3 bombers, but we'd launch all 12 airplanes, sometimes 12 from one squadron, and sometimes all 36 from the 3 squadrons in each fighter group. And we'd escort these 3 B-17s, as an example, into Bucharest, which was right near Ploiești. And the Patriots had isolated an airfield there, and thinking that we could come in there and pick up downed flight crews that had not been captured and had escaped, and the Patriots had collected them. And so we'd watch the B-17s. I would fly with the boss a lot as number 2, and he'd say, you monitor the radio of the bombers. And most of the time we'd be very quiet. We don't like to have the Germans know what we're doing. So I said, boss, he just called in the other 2. He knows the first one was landing to check things out, and the other 2 are landing. So we'd circle around. Pretty soon they'd load up. We'd get out of it and bring them home. So then somewhere along the way, we get another call through our headquarters, and we're going to Czechoslovakia. Well, again, we don't know anything. Well, all we're doing is escorting 3 bombers into Czechoslovakia. And we tour around. I remember after we got there, the boss shot down 2 airplanes. Oh, he says, they're Russian. Shoot them down now or shoot them down later. I thought, boy, he's going to be in trouble there. But he knew what he was doing, I didn't. So we get back, and we're missing one Czech. Well, what happened to him? About 3 hours later, he walks in. What happened? Oh, he says, my engine quit, and I landed on the field and got in one of the B-17s and came back.
He left his plane there.
He left his plane. Well, so we get going along, and pretty soon, I'm always volunteering for every mission I can get, because I want to get my 50 missions in and get back to you-know-who. And the old fellows are taking advantage of that. Let Coloney fly. Well, I was very pleased. So pretty soon the boss taps me on my shoulder and says, I got a flight for you. It's not a mission, but if you want to take it, he says, you go to Sardinia and pick up an airplane, pick up a P-51. They'd come from Sardinia to Italy, and they'd left one there. I'll take it. Got to be at some grass strip at 9 o'clock in the morning. Some sarge pulls up, picks me up in a Jeep, takes me down to the grass strip. Just a little old shack there, I remember. I bang on the door, and he says, yes, sir. I said, I'm here for the flight to Sardinia. Oh, sir, he says, I'm sorry. That took off. I said, they told me 9 o'clock, and it's only quarter up. He says, I'm sorry, they just left early. So I go back. We ride back to the squadron. I go into the old farmhouse, have a cup of coffee, and play some poker. Here comes the boss. Coloney, what are you doing? I said, sir, I was there, but that airplane left early. I know it, he says. I thought you were on it. I came to pack your things, because that crashed and killed everybody on it. I said, I didn't make it. Oh, he says, you're lucky. I said, see how lucky I am?
You're blessed.
She always told me I was blessed. Well, after many more of those experiences, I'm blessed. I have to admit that. I feel that.
Now, who was the boss?
Well, he was a Lieutenant Colonel Watson.
What was he like?
He was first class. He'd come from one of the other squadrons, which I didn't know. He was first class. I didn't see a lot of him. I didn't cater much to rank. But that's all right. Whenever he flew, he always wanted me to fly number 2.
Compliment.
Yeah, I guess. He said, you listen to the bombers. I was always watching for the bombers.
Now, what, as an escort, what's a typical mission?
Well, the bombers would take off normally at 5 o'clock. We'd be getting up at 5 o'clock. We'd go for a briefing, you know, we had a Jeep, I remember, for the squadron. We'd get all 12 people on that Jeep. You can get 12 people on that Jeep. The parachutes would already be down there in the airplanes, and when the crew chiefs would hear that so-and-so was, we all had an airplane. I had an airplane. That didn't, whenever I flew that airplane. When I wasn't flying, somebody else would fly it.
Okay. Your plane have a name?
No, I guess I never really named it. Some people had paintings on there, but I don't know. I just more interested in getting those missions in and getting them. But the crew chiefs would have the parachutes in there if they knew I was flying it. And they'd line the airplanes up on the end of the runway. And over on our runway is sort of over the hill a little bit, and that's where the black boys were. They were over the hill. But we'd line up all on the runway, and boy, one of those Germans would come over here and strafe us when we were all sitting there. We'd get in at the last thing, you know, and wait to, and when the old man started cranking up at the front, why, we'd all crank up. We never said anything on the radio if we could help it. And I thought, boy, I wonder if those guys don't come over here and strafe us, you know. That was going on all over Italy. But in any case, we'd get airborne and head out for the bombers, and they'd be up ahead of us, but they're still crossing the Adriatic. We'd pick them up when they'd get into occupied Europe. And every once in a while I could see the sparkle. And before we'd get there, I'd hear some guy call up, hey, boss, there's bogeys at 9 o'clock. And I think, bogeys at 9 o'clock? There's 500 of them up there. Some guy, I think, just wake up. He just wake up. I've been watching them, you know, for maybe 15 minutes. That's part of my job, of course, the boss, too. And then we'd join up, and we'd have to keep jinking back and forth because they'd be so much slower. And then maybe we'd be the first outfit. We'd be up at the front because that bomber stream was almost 100 miles long.
Really?
And the other groups would be falling in and taking high cover. We'd be down low and escorted into the target. But when they got to the target, those Germans, you know, they'd build a flak box, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 feet high, and maybe a mile thick. And they just shoot into that box. When those bombers started into that box, those nice, bright, shiny new bombers, we'd pull off to the side. There's no fighters in there. We're only protecting them from fighters. We can't protect them from flak. And we'd pick them up coming out the other side. Those beautiful, nice formations would go in there and come out, bent wings, props off, burning, people bailing out. Oh, God, I'm glad I don't have to go in there. Think of the guts it took to go into that flak box on bomber pilots.
Did you encounter
We didn't.
Luftwaffe very much?
We didn't have too much opposition from the Luftwaffe. On occasion we did. I think probably the first experience I had with that, I was flying with a chap, we sort of split up into twos. We're always in twos, and the other two behind you. And we're opened up a little bit, you know. We don't fly right in close. And he calls out, somebody called out 2 bogeys, and he went after them. Now, this is my first experience with chasing the German. And I turned and whoom! I thought, oh my God, I've been hit and don't even know. Somebody always said you got shot down by the chap you never saw. So I didn't know what had happened. I'm feeling air leaking in here, and everything is rumbling. And I called him up, and I forgot who we were. We were Red Leader, or I was Red 2 or something. Or normally we're in the first flight. I said, I think I've been hit. I don't know what he did. He shot down those 2 airplanes and was sitting off my wing and said, you haven't been hit, you've lost the panel, the glass panel out behind you, or I can't see it. And that's what's happened. When I turned, I must have popped that panel. Now this has all happened in less than a minute, right? So we form up and come home.
So you didn't get into contact with the Luftwaffe very often?
No, I remember one other occasion when they got in there and we were splitting up, and I think, oh, I got 2 guys right ahead of me here. And I I'm boring in on them, and I think, oh boy, and I'm getting everything all ready, the gun sight's on, and I'm all ready to shoot. And all of a sudden, what's this? Some guy going by with a parachute that hasn't opened yet. I think, oh, guy, now I'm as close. He's as close almost as that table there. And I could almost see his face. And I thought, my Lord, what did he think? I almost shot him. But I mean, that's how fast things were happening. But of course, he was slow, and all of a sudden I closed on him. And the other guy, there was two of them. They bailed out of bombers, hadn't opened their chute yet when I saw him. Well, that kind of upset me, so I kind of got out of there, joined up with my leader, and came back. But I don't think that there was that much activity. Prior to my getting there, they'd had a big mix-up over Munich and got a presidential citation.
Excuse me just a second. Okay, we're going to just change tapes. Let's go back to Czechoslovakia.
Well, that was like Bucharest. We escorted the three B-17s in there, and the guy had landed and came back. And then later on, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks later, then the boss says, hey, you want another flight? I'm not on a mission, so yeah, I'll take the flight. So they said, okay, said, bring your stuff. Again, I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing. I'm just doing what I'm told. I get my flying equipment. He says, P-51 over there waiting for you. He said, whip over there. Well, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a two-seat P-51. That's pretty unusual. And they hauled me off down to 15th Air Force Headquarters at Berry. Well, we get down there, and let me off. I'm the only fighter pilot again, and I go into a briefing by a general, and there's 3 bomber crews there. Well, you know, there again, I'm an outcast. Not really, because they love fighter pilots, those bomber people. We were their bread and butter. They're briefing us, we're going to go into Czechoslovakia. Banska Bystrica. And again, bring back down flight crews. They've isolated an airport there. And that's where the chap had landed on the first flight. The guy that didn't come back with us and came back on the bomber.
Right.
Well, I'm going in to pick up his P-51. So, and there's nobody on the airplanes. They're loaded up with all kinds of munitions that were flying in there. There's no gunners because they want to be able to bring back the down flight crews. But I've got a Czechoslovak, on the airplane is a Czechoslovak general and an English colonel. So I checked them out on how to use the guns. But I knew our boys were up overhead. We wouldn't have any. So we landed the 3 B-17s. Airplane I'm on gets stuck in the mud. Just a grass strip. And I pop out. I don't care. I got a parachute and a helmet. I'm going to go get that P-51. And they had guards around. They were not all civilian guards. They're not military. They're all patriots, I guess. I don't know this at the time, see. And they had the P-51 pushed up against a kind of an earthen wall, and they helped me back it out, push it out. I got in it to start it. Well, it turned about a turn and a half and quit. Battery was dead on. Oh, I grabbed a parachute and I rushed back to that B-17 guy and I said, I'm out of here. I'm going back on those other B-17s, and I did. We go back to the briefing. Now they're shelling. They're not shelling that airfield, but I can hear artillery all around it. We get back to the briefing and the general says, don't talk to anybody about anything. Don't even tell your boss where you've been. We want to keep it secret. We want to be able to go back. And I thought, well, why don't somebody say something? So finally I said, General, they're not shelling that place, but they're shelling all around it. And I thought, why don't you guys speak up? You all know what you're doing. And none of them ever got out of the airplanes. They stayed in there with the engines running, loading up to get out. I was the only one that had gotten out. I got thinking afterwards, why don't you guys say something? Well, they didn't know it. So, any case, they never went back. The Germans finally overran it. Now, later on, I get a call from an author in California. He says, I've been looking for you for 50 years. He says, I found all the bomber people. There was 11 of our Navy people that were there running the show with the Czechoslovaks. And he said, we never could find you. Now I found you. You flew out the airplane. I said, no, I didn't. Oh, yes, you did. I said, no, I didn't. Well, after that discussion, he said, well, we go back for reunions. He's an author, and he's writing a story for the World War II Museum in England. He said, you know, there was 11 Navy people and 1 Associated Press reporter went in with you on those 3 B-17s. He said, the Germans took it over, and our government got word that they were executing all 12. So our government said, don't execute the A&P reporter. He said, the A&P reporter, of course, had a chance to come back with us, but he says, I'm staying because it'll be the best story that I'll ever have. Well, after 2 or 3 or 4 discussions, or maybe more, they finally get the final word, we're executing all 12, and they did. Of course, that wasn't unusual for the Nazis at that time. So then, pretty soon this chap calls me again and says, I found out why you couldn't get your airplane started. Now, this is going on maybe 2 or 3 months from the first time he called. He said there was a P-51 pilot in that group that you picked up, and he'd been trying to start the airplane. I said, guy, well, too bad I learned all of this several years later.
That's interesting.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? But they go back for reunions. They're always bugging me to go back. I have never been back. I've always just had one problem after another, it seems. So I finally, he said, well, you know, they're all dying. They're all older people, especially the bomber people. I'm probably one of the youngest. He said, well, they always wanted to meet you. I always wondered what happened to the fighter pilot. I said, well, now you can tell them. Yeah, he says, there's not many left, but we're going back for another reunion. I said, well, who goes? Well, he says the bomber people are pretty old and there's not many of them left, but it's the families of the 11 and 12 people that go back. Isn't that something? Yeah. In any case, I came home then with 49 missions. Because my boss didn't want to give me credit for a mission for that. Now the colonel I flew with said, what do you mean? You ought to get 2 missions for it, not 1.
So when did you reach your 49?
I think that was in March of 45.
March of 45?
Yeah. I joined the outfit in July of 44, and in March of 45, I was ready to come home. And those old heads that were there when I got there were still there coasting. Right. And I don't blame them.
Now,
tell them about your strafing mission there in the southern France.
Oh yeah, all right. I have to say my first mission was to Ploesti. Oh, everybody dreaded Ploesti.
Right.
I go to Ploesti because I don't know anything. The second mission, we're going to go strafing. The bombers stand down on Sunday and they don't fly. We go out and do long-range strafing because we got the drop tanks and we can fly the 600, 700, and 800 miles. And we go in for strafing. I've never been strafing before. I had a good shot in an airplane. Everybody wondered how I could be so good. Well, I grew up with guns, and when it was skeet shooting time, I'd always go shoot skeet. The rest of them say, "Well, you shoot mine. I don't care about it." And I'd learned how to shoot like a duck, right? So now we're talking about strafing, and they briefed for an hour, and I thought, boy, this must be real serious stuff. Then it gets down. Only 2 people are going to strafe: the leader and me. Oh boy. So we go into southern France to strafe a radar tower prior to the invasion of southern France. And we go out over the water, of course, over the Mediterranean, and the boss said, now we'll come in, we'll just make 1 turn, hit that target, and come right out over the water. Oh, that's good. That sounds good stuff. So we go in, and of course, I think he's shooting out of range. Most of them did. Well, you know, the guns came together, you know, 1,500 feet ahead of you. They didn't come together on a point, but I mean, well, I hit that thing. I must have hit it right in the vortex. It splattered all over.
So did you get credit for the radar?
Well, of course, we dropped down over the water. The water's all churned up, and boy, those suckers are really mad. It wasn't them. I'm still holding the trigger down. Don't tell anybody. Well, we get back and go to debriefing, and I heard that the boss had a hole in his prop. Well, of course, we're taking pictures at the same time when the guns are firing on. Oh, Lord, I'm in trouble. So they have, every evening we'd go and see what we shot up when we were on strafing. I'm not going to go. Well, who comes but the 15th Air Force General Twining? And when he saw that picture of that tower where I hit it in that vortex of those things, Coloney, where are you? I'm hiding under the table in the dining hall back in that farmhouse. But I was lucky. I think it was nothing but a water tower. Now, when I get to know, I've been back over there several times and see those water towers build up, I think, hell, that wasn't any radar tower, that was a damn water tower. I don't really know. They don't tell you either.
Now, when you first got into Italy, how many missions to get out? Was it
50.
Okay, so it was
Had to
50
fly
the whole time.
Somewhere along about 3/4 of the way, we had a meeting and the boss says, how many people want to go home at 50? Well, you know me, I only want to go home and find out what girls are made of. And my buddies, they don't say anything. Well, they never did say much. I said, what's the matter with you guys anyway? You don't want to go home at 50? I know you do. Oh, yeah, well, we just didn't say anything. So I go home at 50. They stayed. They stayed and flew one more mission. I get a letter from the guy, one of the chaps. He said, we flew one more mission and we lost 3 more people and I quit.
So, where were you discharged?
I was discharged, I think, at Fort Dix.
Okay. So you came back on
Yeah,
the
I
ship?
came back, yeah. But yeah, what, now we're going to Japan.
Uh-huh.
Now we're going to Japan. So she comes home from school and we had 30 days again in Atlantic City. Well, then I get assigned to another place, Virginia. I said, you going to go to school or are you coming with me? Well, she didn't go back to school.
I like just 2 months of graduating. Did my practice teaching and all.
But in any case, then, we stayed on the service. But pretty soon, everybody gets home out of the 42. 4 of us out of the 42 came back. I say I had an easy war. We didn't have so much German problem. We just, if somebody said, well, fighter piloting is the most dangerous job in the world, I believe it.
So a lot of it was accidents?
Well, yeah, and weather, and we didn't have too much maintenance problem. We had excellent maintenance, but it was just one thing or another. And some of the guys would fly into trees shooting up trucks on those things. See, now, because out of the 42, 22 of us went to that one outfit. I went to the one squadron. I'm convinced I have the best squadron in the best fighter group. Well, there's no question about it. The other 2 squadrons lost all the people. They were stranded out there somewhere. We got together at Christmas time for a party, and I met one of the last guys in that other squadron out of that 42. And I said, well, how do you feel about losing all your buddies? Well, he says, we're fighting the war. You guys are sitting on your duffs over there. And I go, oh, well, I'm not going to say anything. How are you going to fight that, right?
Yeah.
So, like I say, 4 of us got back. Again, I was lucky, wasn't I?
Yes, indeed.
She says I'm blessed.
Now, when you got back, what did you do?
Well, of course, I ended up as an instructor, training in gunnery.
Oh, okay.
They were determined I was going to write up, what do I do that I always hit that flying target, right? Everybody's got it down. Well, what do? I don't know what you do. You get up here and you turn in and you roll out and you shoot the target. Well, I learned that you always dip your ammunition in different color paints. I'd always tell the bosses, I want the red ammunition. Well, you can tell Colony's up here, the thing is all red. I could hear them talking now. And I could powder that thing. But most of them are shooting out of range. And you got to lead it, you see.
Right.
We'd shoot tracers. Guys say, oh, I know I'm hitting it. I'm going right into the target. No, you're not. Your tracer's got to go around the front. Oh. That was the difference. It was just a knack for me. Just a knack.
So you're stateside and
Yeah.
teaching gunnery?
And then, and then along, of course, they dropped the bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. A lot of controversy over that. Listen, from where we were, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. We all got to go home. Well, I got home and I decided I'd get out of the service to really go home. I was out of the service about 3 months. Wait a minute. I got to start paying for flying again. Well, I flew with the reserve some, but that was awkward. So I asked to get back in as a regular officer, and eventually I was invited to, and I stayed for 24 years.
Did you go to Korea?
No, I was in Germany, occupied Germany, and of course, we all want to go, don't we? We're all eager to go, but oh no, you got to stay here. You got to stay here.
What was Germany like
Beautiful.
right after the war?
Well, a lot of destruction. Of course, we used to bomb over Germany. When we couldn't drop on any target, any other target, they'd say, we'll drop on Munich. I think, oh Lord, poor Munich. But there were a lot of times they just dropped on Munich. To me, especially in the winter, it was just a black hole in the snow down there. And I think, oh Lord, we're going to drop again. Well, then we got stationed there and lived in Munich. And of course, the streets were mounds of rubble. The buildings were destroyed. And we lived out in the country in German homes that had been requisitioned for us. But we used to travel around a lot. Now we get into the Berlin airlift. And we go up to Frankfurt with our fighters to not escort them. We didn't escort them, but the Russians would pick on them. And we'd go up there and be at the discretion of the radar outfit, and they'd scramble us off to chase the Russians back.
What was that like?
Well, that wasn't very much fun because the Russians had jets and we had old P-47s.
Really?
But they just heckled you. They didn't really do anything. So we,
You used to be on alert, remember?
oh yeah,
Out there on the, right out
oh yeah.
front.
Then we'd sit on alert in the P-47s. And eventually we got jets. We got jets. Now, come to find out, we start losing people again. You can't take a jet that's going full bore and pick up speed without flopping the wings. And sure enough, we started losing wings and losing old heads. I mean, you can't do that, fellas. You can't increase speed when you're going 500 miles an hour. You can't pick up only 50 miles an hour and you're exceeding the design limit of the airplane. So we had to learn that. But some of the old heads couldn't figure it out. So we lost some more people.
What was it like flying a jet for the first time?
Oh, that was a lot of fun.
What'd you like about it?
Well, it's so much smoother and so much faster. I mean, you know, the other airplanes, you know, they're vibrating and what have you. The jets are fine, but you'd only have about an hour and 30 minutes of fuel. So if you're scheduled for an hour, you got to be looking to land in an hour, and you got to keep your eye on the weather because, sure enough, you get fogged in. You don't have the time to make a letdown. As a matter of fact, we lost a lot of people, again, crash landing in the fields because they couldn't get back soon enough, and they run into storms and what have you. And
What was the first jet make model that you flew?
I flew the F-84s.
F-84.
Fortunately, I flew a lot of F-84s. They kept getting new ones and new ones. Now,
Do you remember when you went to New York City and you got
oh,
stuck?
we went to open Idlewild. JFK was Idlewild, and we'd flown up to, from Charlotte, South Carolina, we flew to, I think, Trenton, New Jersey. And we're going to join the group when they open Idlewild for a flyby. Well, our artificial horizons aren't any good, so we can't fly in the weather. We have to fly VFR, visual flight rules, which is fine. But we get up there and the weather gets bad. Well, we can't go home because we can't get back with the weather. Well, we're only going to be overnight, so all we got is flying suits. Well, you know, you could always take a fighter pilot's flying suit and stand it right up. It would stand up. In any case, we finally get airborne and get over Idlewild, and somebody said, "Look out for the B-36s." Well, there went 150 fighters going on in every direction. I don't know who said it. I don't know if there's even B-36s. But everybody just, the boss turns, and when he turns, well, you know, he turns too sharp and everybody scatters off. We all got back, surprisingly. We all got back.
Flying these was very sensitive to weather.
Well, especially when we didn't have that artificial horizon. That was repaired after a while, but for a while we didn't have it. Now, maybe some of the other folks had them, but we didn't.
And when he didn't get back from that trip, I don't know why, but somebody came to the door. I lived upstairs on the base. Somebody came to the door and it's
That was forbidden for anybody to come to the door.
Yeah, and he said, "I hate to tell you this," and I thought, oh, you know, because I mean I knew people that had had this said to them, and he said, "But your husband isn't able to get back." Well, that was wonderful to me, but I couldn't believe he would say that to me because I thought, oh, you know.
Well, you
this
know,
is
when
it.
you lived on base and the staff car pulled up across the road, you know,
You
there's
always
trouble
do.
over there. And sure enough, it'd be the chaplain and the and the squadron commander going in to tell the wife that hubby wasn't coming home. And like she said, here comes the staff car, I don't need that. But I was blessed again.
When, what were you doing? Were you still training?
No, not really. Not really. You get 1 or 2 rides in the F-84, single seat, and so some guy that's flown it before comes over and shows you around. You've been reading the book. He pats you on the back, as we used to say. You're sitting there with your toe brakes, you know, on the rudder panels, and he pats you on the back tight, quick enough to release the brakes, and you were off. And you were off flying it.
What a training program.
Yeah. Well, everything went well. Right at the end, I know you want to cut this off here. At the end, we get transferred to the F-84F outfit. Now, that's the slant wing, see? That's the thing that's going to go faster than sound. And I'd been all over. I'd been to England or what have you. And I said, well, I'd like to do something else other than flying fighters. Of course, I'm leading fighters and what have you. All right, we'll put in something. I went on to safety, flying safety officer. Oh, my goodness. That 84F had what they called the hydraulic controlled system, and if the hydraulics went out, you went on to electric. We had never had a successful electric landing, but everybody's going to try it. Finally, after losing so many people, we all agreed we'll never try electric landing. We'll bail out of the thing. Mm-hmm. Well, now I'm flying safety officer, and I got a chap up overhead. He's on electric. I got the radio, of course, the control tower. I said, I'll take over. I said, don't even attempt it. You're going to bail out of it. All right. Oh, he says, my canopy didn't come off, and it's just part way open, ejecting. He says, I can't bail out. I can't eject through the canopy. I can't go through the rod is right over. He says, I'll get out. I'll try to get out. So I can see him up there with the binoculars, and he's circling around. He got a wingman, you understand. He says, I can't get out. My parachute hook's on the canopy. This time he lost it. I've been through a bunch of these already. Goes into the side hill. Must have scraped for a half a mile, all to pieces. Oh, we go out there to pick him up. Oh, that's cloth. Oh, that's skin. You know. I go home. I said, I'm not eating. I've just been through the hamburger. Go ahead. And so again, we lost a group of people. And some of the old people, because I know I can make that electric landing, so that's the old people. We had people go into cemeteries and tear them up. 84F.
And now, once the hydraulics was gone,
I'm electric, see, and that motor would overrun, you know. You'd say, okay, I'll stop here. Well, the motor would keep coasting, take you down, and bring you up, and you couldn't catch it.
Okay. So
Thinned them out, didn't it?
Oh.
I was lucky again not to have been flying it. I didn't only flew it once or twice. I wasn't flying it every day, right? Every day you'd fly, pretty near every day, sometimes twice a day. I think, why do we fly so much? But if you don't fly, you think, now I know why we fly so much.
Did they resolve the problem?
Got new airplanes.
Good. That'll do it. What model came after the
F-100.
F-100?
That's the first supersonic fighter that we had.
Did you ever get to fly one?
Yeah, I got to fly one. I went supersonic one time, and I think that was getting close to terminating that, and I went off to another outfit.
What was that experience like?
Oh, very nice. First class airplane. That was the follow-on of the F-86, which was a first class airplane.
So did you stay a safety officer?
No, eventually I went into maintenance, aircraft maintenance. I went to a SAC fighter outfit. You know, SAC was going to carry the fighters underneath the B-36. I don't think that ever turned out. So SAC had fighters because they were worldwide. SAC was always ready to go. You know, it said you could press the button, SAC was ready, and it was. Other outfits had to get ready, but not SAC. They had the money. Old LeMay, the cigar there, he had the influence and he had the money. That was worldwide, you know. You're the people that dropped the A-bomb way back there.
Now, where were you stationed with SAC?
Well, we were at Turner Air Force Base in Georgia. Well, then SAC decides that they're gonna give up the fighters. Well, so they give up the base. TAC takes the base. Now we're TAC fighters. Tactical Air Command, always poor. In comparison, LeMay got all the money. TAC didn't get the money. So I puttered around there in maintenance a little bit. The boss said, whenever I ask for airplanes, maintenance says they can't provide them. He says, I'm taking all you ops people and putting them in maintenance, and then when I ask for airplanes, I'll get them. Well, it's the same old story. You can only generate so much flying hours, right? So, any case, eventually, SAC came back and took the base. Didn't take the fighters. I ended up in SAC again. Ended up maintaining B-52s and tankers. I don't know anything about them. I'm still flying with the fighter people who are attached to the base.
Right.
But I'm a maintenance officer. I end up as the chief of maintenance of B-52s and tanker airplanes. I don't fly with SAC.
What's your rank at this point?
I think I'd probably become a lieutenant colonel.
Okay.
So I stayed with SAC, and now we're on alert. You know what alert is in SAC during a Cold War?
No.
That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we don't care what the weather is. We don't care if your dad died or if your mother's having a baby or you're sick. You're out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
For how long?
Years. And we don't care what the weather is. Now, we're at Griffiths Air Force Base with snow. You got bombers and tankers on alert. You got the other bombers sitting out there. And when it starts snowing, it doesn't make any difference. You put the crew chiefs and the enlisted people up on the airplanes with old parachute helmets and ropes and work them all night long, keeping those things clean. And I said, hey, these people got to be fit. Hey, mess hall's closed. Open the mess hall. And so everything's going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
How often were you on alert?
Well, alert was continuous, 7 days a week. I'll tell you something else, I don't think it's a secret, but we maintained Chrome Dome. Chrome Dome. B-52s were around the borders of Russia 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And those airplanes had to be kept there. Those airplanes would be airborne 24 hours. You got one back, it takes you 24 hours to get it ready. You got one ready to take off for the 24 hours. And let me tell you, that was a tough duty. Not for me, because I'm an officer, but when I think of those poor enlisted people out there with their pay, 24 hours a day, no, they get some rest, you understand. I'm not saying there was...
However, at night, when he was on that, the phone rang every minute. This airplane won't work, they need this part, they need that. All night long, he would be on the phone.
I'd say, never mind, I'm coming back out. I said, I got to let my family get some rest. I'll come back out.
So how long?
Oh, I don't know how long it was. Couple of years, was it? 3 years?
Well, we were at Griffiths for 6 years, I don't know.
Were we? Was it there that long?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Well, then eventually I got grounded. Now I'm going to get paid, but we're going to save money and not support you flying anymore. Me? Not flying anymore? I never heard of such a thing. I'm still flying the fighters. So that's when I decided that I want to terminate. Well, then they come out with a law that you can't retire in lieu of orders. In other words, if you got orders to transfer and you had retirement time, you wanted to, you could retire. Well, I want to get out. Oh, I'll stay another year. All right. Then I'm going to get out at the end of the year. Oh, stay another year. Oh, all right. The second time, I get orders for California. Well, now I can't retire. Well, I don't know that. The boss says, I'll get you off the orders. You don't have to go, but you either got to retire or go. I said, I'll retire. I come home and talk it over with them. We got 5 kids now, and they're growing up and start going to schools. And, oh, we'll go to California. All right. Well, we went out there for a year. Out there to the same thing, see? Same 7 day a week. Of course, the weather's much better. But I thought, I've had enough of it, and I get out if I can. No, they're going to promote you. Promote you. I know I'm going. I'm going this time. We did. I had 24. I'm coming away with a check, you know. I didn't like I'm walking out.
So when did you retire? Finally?
1966.
1966.
24 years after 42. God, I'm 43 years old. I'm an old man.
Then.
What?
I bought an airplane in flew as much as I could.
What kind of plane did you get?
Well, I bought an air coupe. That's a little low-wing, two-place airplane, you know, just like a fighter, right? Well, I didn't have any guns, so I took a camera, and I did aerial photos.
Oh, neat.
Oh, I got tremendous aerial photos with it. I have, thanks to the camera and the film and the processing. A picture of your house, you can look through the window and almost read the number on the telephone.
Oh, dear.
Thanks to the lens, right?
Yeah.
With a telescopic lens, just beautiful. Tremendous color. Well, there's a big demand for that. Not so much of homes. Oh, there's a lot of demand for homes, but for buildings. Now we do them for the Economic Development Corporation with all of their buildings.
So you turned this into a business?
Oh, yeah. Bass Hatfields that builds the big
Right.
schools and the hospitals. We just took a picture of the Walmart Center there in Johnstown, New York. You know, that's acres under roof. Huge building. Well, Bass Hatfield built that. They saw the picture. They couldn't believe it. Well, we're building this and that. Will you do pictures? Well, certainly.
His son is doing it now more,
So you're still
Right.
flying?
a little bit.
You know what? Before I got to go overseas back there in '44, I always got to take a physical. Every time you change stations, and at least once a year and sometimes twice a year, you take a physical. I'm taking a physical at the port of embarkation, and the doc Monday, he said, oh, he says, you have to come back tomorrow. What's the matter? Oh, your blood pressure. Well, I'll go back Tuesday. Oh, come back tomorrow. Friday, I said, Doc, we got orders and we're going. They're shipping out today. You're not going. I said, oh, come on, Doc. I said, I'm going to war. I'm flying alone, and I'm going to war. What difference does it make? Well, he says, you promised me you won't smoke or drink. I said, Doc, I don't. I said, I promise. I thought that's the time to keep your mouth shut, right?
Now, looking back, how would you characterize your service career?
Well, of course, I enjoyed the flying. I enjoyed the military up to a point. Unfortunately, you come across some bosses that don't have the same interest and experience, but they're the boss. They've been there longer, they're older, they got more rank. Then you come across some bosses that you get along with just fine, and you think, oh, this is the picnic. Well, unfortunately, things are always changing. So it was a mixed affair, a mixed affair. I look back on it, and I tell her how lucky I am, and she said, well, you've just been blessed. Well, I have been blessed. And I look back on it, and what a tremendous experience. And then, again, to come away with the retirement after 20 or 24 or 30 years, you lose a lot of friends. You try to keep in touch with those that are left. The biggest part that upset me was, you know, we were guaranteed certain things in the military. And if you retired and stayed in, you were guaranteed certain things. The first thing we found is those guarantees don't work after you get out. The government takes them away. We were guaranteed free medical for life. No, so we had to buy our own medical. Now, they've passed some laws. And starting this October, the 1st of this month, we get free medical again. In the meantime, we had to buy medical. Now, I could get some medical, but she couldn't. A lot of the places you could if you were near a base, but we weren't near a base. So it didn't work out evenly. Also, we were told just before we retired that we could insure our retired pay so that our missus could get half of it if you wanted to insure half of it. But you have to make the decision now because it's too late. We just got it, and we're already late. You got to make the decision now. Well, I'll take that. I didn't have much life insurance, and I'm flying every day. I'll take that. Well, come to find out, she gets half of it less for Social Security. But they're going to pass a law. Oh, and the government was supplementing half of that pay. Well, they stopped supplementing. Not completely, but most of it. Now they're going to pass a law in 2002 if they get it ready. They'll have it ready in 2002. They're going to pass it in 2004, and you're going to be able to get out of it in 2006. Thank you, Lord. And we finally got our physical back after our medical back. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Colonel.
My pleasure.
You did a fine job. We appreciate it. And
Well-
thank you for being here.
Well, I've enjoyed it.
I thank him, and I'm sure you're gonna trim that to where it gets.
We don't trim anything.
don't?
This is for
Oh,
history.
yeah, but you don't have to show, oh, you're doing it just for me.
Yeah,
No, for history.
for history. Somebody else will do all that, you know, down the road. We're just getting the raw material and let some historian, some researcher do the rest.
You can tell that I enjoyed the tour of duty, Kenny.
Yes, you can.
You can tell that I enjoyed the flying. I enjoyed the people I met. Oh, there's some tremendous people, you know. Some people that, I have to say, they're much more devoted than I am. That didn't complain about some of the things that I complained about. And the guys that stayed beyond the 50 missions when I wanted to come home. And yet I wound my way through the thing, and I look back at it, and I think one of the best experiences I could have. I'm always sad and get a little emotional when I think of the young people that died that didn't really know what they were doing.
Sure.
And really couldn't fly the airplane. They flew it, but I mean, they weren't into it like I was. I met my instructor that I started with not long ago, and told him what I had done. Well, he says, you flew the day I took you out. You knew how to fly. You see, it was a natural thing for me. I followed it and read about it and built model airplanes and flew them, but some of those guys didn't. They were just in here. I thought I was the youngest guy when we came away from Italy. And since then, one of the guys that came back, there was 5 of us that had been together real close, and we lost a guy the first thing. He went into the water, just buzzed in the water with another friend, and went into the Adriatic. And when he did, out of the 5, one of the other guys flew a couple missions and he quit. He says, I've had enough. Nobody could quit flying. They transferred him to another outfit. He didn't get out of the service. I met him afterwards. Well, he says, you thought you were the youngest. He says, I lied about my age. And when you were 21, I was 19. He said, when I went in the service, I was 16. And that's the guy that quit. So he's there, but I don't count him in the 5. The 5 of us came back, and the one has since passed away. And there's 3 of us left, right? Well, the 4 of us, but he's the one that didn't continue flying.
Well, thank you very much. It was a great interview.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
And thank